School Board to order. In opening, as you're willing and able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to start by asking Ms. Figueroa to take the roll call.
Ms. Semino.
Here.
Dr. Huff.
Here.
Mr. Cutis.
Here.
Mrs. Lentz.
Here.
Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
Mrs. Walkman.
Here.
Ms. Witkowski Smith.
Here.
Dr. Grandy.
Here.
Mr. Berman. Dr. Marseille. Dr. Grandy, there are 8 voting members present.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Figueroa. So I want to start this evening with just one quick board announcement to let folks know the board met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss personnel. So that will take us to our superintendent's report, and I'm excited to welcome Dr. Marseille as our new superintendent. Well, not so new now, we're a few weeks in, but our first board meeting together.
Thank you, Dr. Grande. Thank you for coming. So I have a series of updates that I want to share with you, going through some topics, but I am excited to be here. My wife and I have been president for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So thank you. I'm a little out of practice, so I appreciate that. So I want to talk a little bit about some updates that I want to share with the board and the public. And I want to try to keep it short, but if the board remembers, on April 12th, I did share with you that I'm not known for my brevity, but I think it's important topics to discuss. I have a potential colleague who understands that, future colleague very well. So what you're looking at is our mission and vision statement. I will start every meeting as the proud superintendent of this district to ground us in philosophically what this community and many stakeholders came together many moons ago and decided to commit to around our purpose and in our why. And that tends to, and I want the board to reflect not just that, but the reason why we are here in the lens that we must see the work in order to support teaching and learning. And if you recall, on July 8th, I sent a letter to the community. And in that communication, I wanted to share in 3 phases a somewhat traditional entry plan as superintendent to kind of highlight a 30,000-foot view of what the year will look like for me. Specifically those first 100+ days as we are thinking about getting to know as many of the community members as possible and getting a better understanding of stories. I've shared this before, that the shortest distance between 2 people is a story. And if we spend more time engaging in that conversation, we find that we have more in common than not. So with that, I articulated a number of key steps in that process. I've had the pleasure of meeting with a large number of my central administrative staff, the pleasure of meeting with some of the building administrators, began to schedule individual meetings with members of the board. So it's had recent meetings just to better understand their story, their purpose, their why, and how we can work collectively as a team to move the district move the district forward. So I'm hoping you please stay tuned and find ways to actively participate. And we're going to create a myriad of opportunities, whether they're not just in this building, but other buildings, other parts of the community, to really go out and listen to some stories as I transition, and want to make sure that we're in the service of children, and to all children, including my very own, who starts middle school in September. So she's excited about that as well. We got an email from her assistant principal about the reading assignments. She wasn't excited about that. As usually that indicates time is running out in terms of those summer experiences. So I'm excited with that. I also want to share with you that since my previous communication, I wanted to share with you some comments that I've received as superintendent, and about our health and safety plan and concerns that parents have. This community will find out, because actions speak louder than words, that I create the space to make sure that voices are heard and there's a diversity of thought. We may disagree philosophically, but I always want to create a space to welcome individuals to have conversation. I am much better in person than I am responding via email. And I find that the ability to do that, though I understand for some may be challenging, much prefer that atmosphere. And you know, there's just something about a face-to-face meeting that is very different, though there are tremendous benefits to Zoom, but some require that personal connection, at least what I get when I'm meeting with individuals. So I sent communication with regards to the Secretary of Education reminding superintendents across the Commonwealth with regards to the federal requirements of masking on public transportation and school buses. And obviously that has varying opinions with respects to that. And since that communication, families have been emailing my office asking some additional questions about where the district is, what are we doing, when are we going to communicate that, what does that look like? And I want to share with the board that per the health and safety plan that was approved on June 19th, that language around the mask was not in there. That federal mandate does supersede the authority of the board, and that will be reflected in the new update. And you can see where the old language resides and where the new language will go in with regards to masking on public transportation, specifically to us with school buses. And I said earlier that there were parents who had a lot of questions and were willing to create the space to listen and to hear those concerns and navigate through them. But there's been since that additional information that has come our way. And part of that are communication with respects to some of the changes that are happening across the state, but obviously across the country. If you go to our website, we've tried to include links that will take you directly to some particular sources. I know community members have other sources as well, but we'll provide you those links to the CDC website. One of the things you'll find out that in my communication, it might sometimes be overkill, but I include a lot of hyperlinks. I think it's important that people can go directly to a source without having to navigate through multiple links. As great as some websites are, I'd rather go straight to that versus clicking 16 times to get to that body of information. And I look forward to the feedback in terms of how quickly we can do that. So several things have happened where obviously Chester County Health Department has ended their relationship with Delaware County and no longer will be providing that level of expertise and support that it has over the 19 months. And that Delaware County will look forward to looking for additional support from the Pennsylvania Department of Health. Also, soon after that, CDC provided some revisions to guidelines around safe return to schools. And it provided some considerations for schools to consider, with the understanding that they want schools to implement effective mitigation practices. But they also champion in-person instruction as much as possible. And say to districts, as you're thinking through these mitigation factors, we do not want any of these mitigation factors to play a significant role in denying students in-person instruction. So that calls on us to think about what does that look like as we thinking about moving in that direction. One of my parents wanted to know, will we be, Dr. Marseille, are you going to vote tonight and make a decision on those CDC guidelines? I shared in that communication that I'm processing, looking over the information. As you know, recommendations vary and they shift. But I don't have to tell you that because we've lived through this experience for 2 years. I really thought we'd be in a different place than where we are right now. So my pandemic team will meet. I believe I had my first meeting last week with Delaware County Superintendents under the leadership of Dr. Edelberg, and we kind of walked through what those guidelines were. Dr. Rubin was also in that call as well from CHOP. And Dr. Grande, was it Dr. Peach? Dr. Brennan, thank you, from Penn Medicine was also in that conversation, helping us to kind of answer our questions and help us better understand what does that mean. So I will be presenting to this board relatively soon our recommendations and for you to deliberate and think about. I understand that there are parents who want to know now because there are decisions that have to be made, and I respect that. And we're gonna turn this around as quickly as we can and bring that to you. We want more people, not only physically here, but also via Zoom as well. So we'll make sure that when that meeting takes place, that we use all of our communication channels to have individuals here to engage in that conversation. So with that, I'm gonna transition to a couple of other updates as well. As the board knows and community members, that in June, the district began renovating the front foyer of the high school as part of our safety measures. A lot of other safety protocols that need to be put into place after looking at that plan and having a conversation with the business Figueroa that we need to move forward with, but I'm excited that we're able to begin that project. That project is slated to complete in August. It is on time. Very hard to say these things when you have a project that you're on time, but it is on time. We're looking forward to that completion. You'll see the entryway here, but a significant part of the work is happening inside, as you can see where they are changing and reconfiguring so that as you buzz into the school, individuals are really channeled to a much more secure area so that they're not being buzzed in and then have total access to the building. And where they're framing everything out, they begin to put the drywall and do that. And the pictures you're seeing a little bit different than the last couple of days because they've continued to make improvements with that process. I also want to bring to your attention this emergency connectivity fund and opportunity for the district to seek additional funding for some of our neediest families. So last week, our Director of Instructional Technology, Dr. Wheeler, and our Director of Information Technology, Mr. Centrone, attended a session that was facilitated by DCIU. In that conversation, really talked about, as part of the Americans Recovery Act, there is $7 billion set aside for communities to identify families who are struggling with internet access and accessing a digital curriculum. It's a short turnaround. We will be sending communication to our families in the next 48 hours, seeking their input about what does that look like in your household. We have families who we're aware are in need. We ask you that if you know a neighbor who's in need, who's struggling with hardware in terms of technology, or may not have internet connection, we've tried to keep a good pulse on that. But there's money out there to expand our efforts. And we're hoping that we'll get a quick turnaround. Our team is working on that grant. We will submit that. Like every grant, the money is not guaranteed, but we will put our best foot effort and share our story and why we believe it's going to be extremely beneficial to our families in this community. So I wanted to share that as well. I also wanted to share our virtual school. We began enrollment July 12th and will continue through July 30th. If you remember in my opening statement a couple minutes ago, I had parents asking me, well, how can I make an informed decision about whether or not this is right for me when you haven't made a decision about how you're coming back to school? Very good point. I don't have an answer for that, except for we will be flexible in that timeline. And second, we will be presenting to the board as quickly as possible in the community our recommendations for moving forward with opening school. And that should not negatively impact. Obviously, administration, Dr. Jones and her team want to get that information in their hands as quickly as possible so they can turn that around and create a comprehensive schedule. But we understand where we are, and we're going to ask for flexibility in giving parents a little bit more latitude to make that decision after we present our recommendation, our suggestions to the board about returning this fall. And the questions keep coming. It's only been 16 days. So the other question that came up was, Dr. Marseille, what are you doing about sleep and the study? Why are we returning back to a normal start time? We returned during COVID with a really good start time. How could you start school at 7:35 again? And I thank parents for their comments. And I know that there's been a tremendous amount of work because in this time, I'm trying to read as much information as possible. It's not a lack of information, it's the bandwidth of me trying to read everything in such a short amount of time. I feel like for those who remember their graduate studies, just not enough hours to read all of those books, but you find somewhere to do that. So I want to acknowledge, and I know many of you know this because you sent communication to me, but I want to share with you specifically about what are we going to do. Well, this community and this board made a commitment to spend a tremendous amount of resource, engage in this conversation, wherever you sit with respects to that. We had local experts, national experts, We had committees. The curriculum team, in light of this major initiative, pushed a lot of curriculum work aside in order to make room to engage in this work. The committee was prepared to present to the public a series of recommendations, get that feedback, and host a public meeting of the board to share that information. I don't have to tell you in March what occurred, and the world pivoted significantly, and we have not returned back to that work. What this board, this administration, those who were here who took part in that, and myself who's new, will create the space to re-engage. So where we stopped, which was the committee was ready to present to the public a series of options based on the months and months of investigation. We're going to pick that up. We're going to put the schedule together to get that going very quickly. We will then present that to the board, and the board will either make an informed decision or ask the team to come back with more information before they do that. But I want to share with one particular community member who asked specifically, will there be changes in the 21-22 school year? It is going to be extremely problematic, I should say, and programmatically impossible to some extent to try to pivot in the middle of the year and start that. There's so many things that need to be prepared for that. And I know there are individuals who are looking forward to that, that experience, who support the research, who support the science. We're gonna need some time to implement that. And unfortunately, I do not believe, and from someone who has spent time in previous districts engaged in this work, I respect the amount of time that went into this, but also understand the amount of time that needs to go in preparing for that, depending on the decision of this board. So I'd be remiss not to include this in my report, since I've received a number of communications about that as well, and more information to come. So I always save the best for last, right? And the best for last is all about the children, right? Even the little ones in the audience right now, right? Who are extremely adorable. And I want to share with you a couple of summer experiences that we're very fortunate to offer at Wallingford-Swarthmore. And we're very fortunate that our teachers and our educators, though they had choices and they could have done other things, decided to give the time and space for these experiences to take place. So we've had a number of summer programs. We've had our extended school year. We've had our Panther program, our extended day. As you see, a number of pictures of students who throughout the week starting the experience, and that adage that a picture's worth 1,000 words, and the smiles that you see with our summer experiences. It's adorable. Students, I bumped into a group of young ladies who were engaged in this game. I had no idea what it was. It looked fun, so I jumped in and I said, teach me how to do this and what does this mean, right? Brought me back to those years. Very, very long time ago. But this is really what happens. I don't have to tell you that children bring the building back to life. Not that I don't love working with my central office colleagues every day since I started, but it's something different when children are in the building, regardless of age. Even the ones who think they're grown and they're juniors and seniors, they're still little babies to a lot of individuals. So a lot of activities are taking place, trying to make sure that we're actively engaging students, but also meeting their academic and developmental needs as well, because some of the programs are specifically designed to meet those particular needs. And who can't who's going to forget about our music program, our 40th plus year, I believe. I want to tell you that someone should have told me to bring a lawn chair to this event. And so I'm dressed in this normal outfit. It's 96 degrees outside. So I go outside at 6:30 and Dr. Jones is there. She got the memo because she got her lawn chair, right? And I'm standing there and enjoying the concert. And after an hour and a half, I was wondering why the musicians were shifting to the left. And I quickly realized it's because, no, I'm shifting to the left, right? So I told Dr. Jones, I'm gonna go inside, take a break. So I cooled off a little bit and came outside and finished it. But an extraordinary experience to all of our directors, our administrators who put that together. So I had my first experience. It was absolutely wonderful. I can't wait till Cheyenne picks up the violin again. So maybe when she gets back with all of her new friends, she'll be energized and pick that up, considering I think it's somewhere in the 65 boxes that are still unpacking at the house. But I wanted to share that and those wonderful experiences and try to highlight the wonderful things in my report that, yes, are extremely informational, but always circle back to the work that we're doing, and that is supporting and honoring our students and our staff. So with that, that concludes my report. I hope it wasn't too long, Dr. Grande, but I had to take time for these 14, 16 days to share. Absolutely.
Thank you for that report. I think it's very useful information for the community to hear. So that takes us to our time for audience recognition for response items that are on the agenda for action on the agenda this evening. We'll have a later time toward the end of the meeting for audience comments for response to items that are not on the agenda this evening. And just as a reminder, public comment is a time for district residents and taxpayers to speak to the board about an issue that is before the board or may come before the board. It's a time for the board to listen and hear perspectives and experiences from our community. And while we can't answer questions at the meeting, there's always an opportunity to follow up after meetings if there is a specific question for the district. At this time, I want to ask, is there anyone who would like to speak tonight about a topic on the agenda? Excuse me? Is the all COVID precautions on the agenda? No, not this evening. Yep. Okay. All right. So, but certainly you can come back to that during the later comment period. So that takes us to our first item for action, which is the approval of the June 28th regular business meeting minutes, and I so move. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Matt. Any discussion? Okay. Ms. Figueroa, can you please take a roll call?
Ms. Semino,
Aye.
Dr. Huff,
Aye.
Mr. Cutis,
Aye.
Mrs. Lentz,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan,
Aye.
Mrs. Walkman,
Aye.
Ms. Bukowski Smith,
Aye.
Dr. Grandy.
Aye.
The motion passes 8-0.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Figueroa. So that takes us to personnel. We have 12 items for action in personnel. Are there any on the list that anyone on the board would like to separate from the rest? Okay. Let me read these then. First, we have approval of 3 resignations as listed in the agenda. Next, we have approval of 3 appointments. Ian Sandberg, Director of Student Services, Julia Cooperstein, Special Ed Teacher at SRS, and Judith Cramner, Emotional Support Special Education Teacher at Strathaven Middle School. We have approval of additions and a deletion to the summer school program appointment list as stipulated. We have approval of the additional staff to work on the Leading Math Initiative summer curriculum at the rate of $37 per hour, not to exceed 25 hours for the 2021 summer as stipulated. We have approval of the Community of Explorers librarian hours at $37 per hour, not to exceed 6 hours for the 2021 summer as stipulated. We have approval of the 2021 summer school transportation hours as stipulated. We have approval of appointments to the 2021-2022 fall athletic supplementals. We have approval of a 2021-2022 spring athletic supplemental. We have approval of staff as listed in the agenda to work on the English language program development summer curriculum at the rate of $37 per hour, not to exceed 30 hours total for the 2021 summer. We have approval of payment for unused sick days as stipulated. We have approval of the extension of assignment for Anne Marie Ward as described in the agenda. And we have approval of the listed staff to work on the Power School development and training for item analysis and assessment writing at the rate of $37 per hour, not to exceed 13 hours each for the 2021 summer. All items in this section are as attached or described in the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Kelly. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Matt. Any discussion on these items?
The English language program development, is that to take over the function from the DCIU? Okay, just making sure.
I have a question as well, and I'm sorry I didn't break this one out or ask it earlier, but I just see the descriptions changed in this version of the agenda. So the additional new position, the teacher, the emotional support special education teacher, is that budgeted for in 2021-22? Because I don't think this is one of those other positions that we had approved.
That was, yes, I see when you and I talked and tried to get clarification, I followed up with our Director of Student Services to try to get a better understanding. Is that new? Was that existing or replacing? It is a new position as a result of increased need for our students. So as a result of increased caseloads, we needed to hire an additional staff member that did not exist. So that is new money, new position that was budgeted for the 21-22 budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Okay, Ms. Fagora, can you please take a roll call vote?
Dr. Huff,
Aye.
Mr. Cudas,
Aye.
Mrs. Lentz,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan,
Aye.
Mrs. Walkman,
Aye.
Ms. Kowski Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Semino,
Aye.
Dr. Grandy.
Aye.
Dr. Grandy, the personnel items pass by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fagora. Okay, so we have 4 items for action and curriculum. Are there any on the list anyone would like to separate from the rest? Okay. First, we have approval of 2021-2022 related services provider contracts as stipulated. We have approval of a 2021-2022 tuition contract as listed in the agenda. We have approval of an educational services agreement as listed in the agenda under item C, and another educational services agreement is listed in the agenda under item D. These items are as attached or described in the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Chapin. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jen. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Fagora, can you please take a roll call vote?
Mr. Cudas,
Aye.
Mrs. Lentz,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan,
Aye.
Mrs. Walkman,
Aye.
Ms. Kowski Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Semino,
Aye.
Dr. Huff,
Aye.
Dr. Grandy.
Aye.
The curriculum items pass 8-0.
All right, that takes us to finance, where we have 8 items for approval. Are there any on the list anyone would like to separate? Okay. First, we have approval of payment of invoices to vendors dated June 23rd to July 15th, 2021. We have an approval of an agreement with Core Power Incorporated for the UPS system at NPE and West. We have approval of removal of obsolete equipment as listed in the agenda. We have approval of a contract with SOS Group for business office support. We have approval of a contract with Power School for an upgrade of eFinance Plus at a rate not to exceed $10,000 as stipulated. We have the approval of the appointment of Charles Linderman, interim business administrator, as the primary contact for the PA School District Liquid Asset Fund. We have approval of a change to the petty cash custodian at the high school from Deborah Sweeney to Donna Rucker. And lastly, we have the approval of an agreement with Foundations Incorporated to provide interim support of the Office of Student Services. All items in this section are as attached or described in the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Larry. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Figueroa, can you please take a roll call vote?
Mrs. Lentz,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan,
Aye.
Mrs. Walkman,
Aye.
Ms. Wachowski Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Semino,
Aye.
Dr. Huff,
Aye.
Mr. Cutis,
Aye.
Dr. Grandy.
Aye.
Dr. Grandy, the finance items pass 8-0.
All right, thank you, Ms. Figueroa. So that takes us to the section on the agenda titled Other. And what's on that part of the agenda this evening is filling the board vacancy from Region 3. As many of you, as the board certainly knows, Jerry Ballas resigned at the June 28th meeting due to a move out of the district. And so this evening we will fill that seat. We have 4 candidates who've expressed interest in this position on the board. And as we've done with some other recent vacancies, what we will do is invite each candidate to introduce themselves to the board. We ask each candidate to take no more than about 3 minutes to do that. After each candidate, I'll invite board members if you have any questions for that particular candidate before we move on to the next one. And then after we conclude, the board will vote on filling that seat. And so we will take a roll call where each individual board member will indicate their vote. We do need 5 votes to fill the seat. And so I propose, as we've done in the past, that if no candidate has 5 votes, that we would take the top 2 vote getters and have a runoff at that point and vote again. Before we move on to begin with candidates, board members have any questions about that process? Okay. I have the candidates in alphabetical order. So we can start with Christine. How do you pronounce your last name? Delay. Okay, I don't want to mispronounce your name. So you're welcome to go up to the podium and introduce yourself. And actually, I should ask, I should have written these things down in front of me. I do need to confirm with each candidate that you meet all the criteria to serve on the board.
Sure.
Mr. Berman, do you happen to have that list handy? I believe it's obviously that you reside in Region 3.
I do.
The second one is that you do not serve in any other public elected
I
offices.
do not.
And
18 years old and you've
Yeah.
lived in the district for more than a year in the region where you're
Yes
running
and
from.
yes.
thank you, Mr. Berman. I normally have the list in front of me.
No problem. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity and thank you for the work that you do. It's an exciting time to be here. Welcome, Dr. Marseille. So our family resides in Swarthmore and we have rising 6th grade twins. A little bit about my background. So I have a master's in educational psychology and I'm a certified school psychologist. While living in New Jersey, I also earned certification as a substance awareness coordinator. And my undergraduate studies were in psychology and marketing. I have close to 25 years of experience advocating for children and working collaboratively in school settings pre-K through 12, with opportunities to extend my reach beyond the traditional role of a school psychologist. I've evaluated, case managed, consulted with teachers, counsels, provided crisis intervention services, and served on crisis teams working closely with administration, revised policy, developed programs, coached, and engaged in prevention work. When my children were young, I had the opportunity to shift for a bit, and I worked as a Southeast PA field consultant, advocating for clean air for kids. I'm proud that as a parent volunteer, I was able to get a Girls on the Run program up and running at SRS. I'm a lifelong learner. As a member of the National Association of School Psychologists, I'm a lifelong learner focused on reflecting and growing, not only to enhance my professional life, but my journey as a parent as well. We, like many, have been focused on having often difficult but necessary conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we're learning as we go. So I've come forward to be considered for school board director because I feel that I can draw upon my background and skill set to be of service and to make a positive contribution to this team. I feel it would be highly valuable to include a school-based and social emotional perspective. And in closing, I just wanted to stress that if selected, I would take very seriously the trust extended to me in this role. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let me ask if any board members have any questions before you leave the podium.
I have one question.
Sure.
If you were selected for this role, would you be willing to stand for election for this position in November?
I would, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Our second candidate is Gill. I'll invite you to the podium. And again, as you're walking up, if you can start by just confirming age 18 or older,
Yes.
that you live in Region 3 for at least 1 year,
Yes,
and that you do not hold any other elected office.
correct.
Okay, I think that's
Wonderful.
the full list. Take it away.
All right. Superintendent Dr. Marseille, directors of the board, I appreciate the opportunity to come up here and speak to you. My name is Gill. I am very interested in serving the board and serving the community as a board of director in the school district. To take you through some of my history in this long and winding path, I came through the corporate world. I was in corporate strategy and analysis for the likes of General Electric, Time Warner, and Godiva Chocolatier. I decided upon a pivot point in my career and I got my MBA from Villanova. And from there, unlike most other MBAs, I ended up as the director of program evaluation and quality assurance for Project Home, a homeless nonprofit in Philadelphia that serves over 1,000 homeless individuals every single year. Looking to lean into that pivot point, I went and got my master's in quantitative methods from Penn Graduate School of Education. And from there, I was selected to through the Harvard Strategic Data Project to head down to New Orleans and work with their public school district in research and validating the adequacy of their equity-focused funding model. So before you ask, yes, working in education research is so much more rewarding than working in chocolates. But to express my interest in the role, one, I see myself as a long-term stakeholder in the district. We moved here in the middle of the pandemic from New Orleans. So across the country, in the middle of it all, we have two young children in our family. The oldest is going into first grade at SRS and the youngest is starting kindergarten. So I see myself as a long-term prospect here. You know, I fully expect to, if I hold this role or whether or not I hold this role, to also run for election come in November. Second of all, my experience in education research, strategic finance, and equity can be greatly leveraged within the board in a strategic format. As I've already expressed some of my experiences, I also recently served as on leadership of the WSS Big Idea, where we work directly with the district's DI committee on a great many of the initiatives out there, including the first Black Lives Matter Day in the district, which we felt was a great success. So I'll be brief. I thank you for the opportunity to stand up here and to make my case. I hope I'm selected, but I'll be feel free to answer your questions at this point.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Sorry, I'll just clarify, just want to make sure. So since you said you moved here in the middle of the pandemic, it's
Sorry,
been,
in the beginning of the pandemic. We
beginning of
moved here in February of 2020.
gotcha, okay. All right, yes, the very beginning
Yes.
of the pandemic.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we have two other candidates who, given this time of year, we know people are often out of town. So two that will be joining us remotely. So let's see if Rhoda Odonnell is connected.
Can you see and hear me?
Yeah, give us one. Can we turn the volume up a little bit? Hang on one moment. Okay, can you say hello one more time?
Hi, I am would like to say welcome to Dr. Marseille, and thank you for having me virtually today to the board.
All right. If you could just confirm real quick that you're age 18 or older, that you've lived in Region 3 for at least 1 year, and that you do not hold any other elected office.
So I've lived in Region 3 for 6 months, but for 10 years total over my 20 years in the Wallingford-Swarthmore School District.
That's okay. Okay. That sounds good. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the board?
I am Rhoda Odonnell. I have 2 children. One is 24 and graduated from kindergarten all the way through in our district, and went off to Drexel and is now studying at the University of Pennsylvania. And I have a 16-year-old who is in the district right now in the high school. And we just moved back to Swarthmore from Rose Valley. So I've lived in Wallingford, Rose Valley, and Swarthmore. And I have a lot of connections all the way through all of those places. I have my bachelor's and master's. I went back for more pain at Villanova in the same degree, political science. And I have a background in business, real business experience. And that's where my background lies. Also construction experience. I have background in putting out RFPs and budgeting and keeping timelines. And I think that's something that the district is really looking at right now. So I think my experience would be a real asset to the district. Right now I'm working at the University of Pennsylvania in scheduling and event services. And we have a trifecta mission: education, research, and clinical support. And that's what I am doing currently, as well as I run a small business on the side that supports women all over the world that live in impoverished countries. And that's all about me.
All right. Thank you. Let me ask if board members have any questions.
So I'll ask the same question again. If you were selected for this position, would you be interested in running for the seat in November?
I would be. I believe that it's important to have longevity in the position as well as new faces.
All right. And Mr. Berman, just to make sure I think the way I described eligibility may have been incorrect. So it's live in the district for at least 1 year and currently live in the region. Is that
Right, you have to currently live in the region to make you eligible. You have to live in the district to make you, for a year, to make you eligible as well.
okay? I just wanted to make sure we clarify that. Okay. All right. Thank you. So we move on to our 4th candidate, Wendy Voss, who I think is just on audio connection. Wendy, are you there? Sorry, try again. I think we hear you. Can you just say your name?
My name is Wendy Voss.
Okay, yep, we hear you now. So again, first, I just want to confirm eligibility, age greater than 18, currently live in Region 3 and having lived in the district for more than a year, and that you do not hold any other elected office.
Correct to all of those, yes.
Okay, all right, take it away. You can go ahead and introduce yourself to the board.
All right, well, first of all, thank you so much for giving me some time to speak. And I apologize for not being able to put the video on. My connectivity right now isn't great. So just a little bit about me. I know some of you, but some of you I haven't met. I have 25 years experience in public health. That's my professional background. I have a master's in public health from Tulane University. And I specialize in global health program design, growth, and management, which includes a lot of work around budgeting. And in the previous job I had as an executive director for an organization called Women's Way, I also was involved in human resource management and also program design. And I currently work for an organization called Chicago Corporation, which is an affiliate of Johns Hopkins University as a program advisor. In terms of just personally, I live in the region. I've lived in Swarthmore for over 15 years now, and I have two children. One actually just graduated from Strathaven High School, started at SRS and went all the way through. And the other one is currently in middle school. She's a rising seventh grader. And I just want to say both of them have had an amazing experience. I feel really fortunate to have been living here and to have my kids in schools and having the teachers who are advocates. Also about me, I did serve on.
Wendy, can I just, sorry to interrupt. Are you able to speak a little louder or get closer to the microphone?
Okay, I'm gonna undo. Can you hear me better now?
Oh, yes. Oh, that's
Okay, I'm speaking. I took out my my headphones and I'm speaking directly into the phone now.
much better.
All right.
Okay.
So also, I served on the school board for 4 years, and I rolled off actually in December 2019, just before the pandemic. So I don't know if that's lucky or unlucky, but I did serve on the Policy and Wellness Committee, and I'm pretty well versed in how the school board functions. I would say that's probably my strongest characteristic here. And, you know, and also just what shapes and places parameters on policy, budgeting, and human resources within the district. And then my interests right now, I know you've all had a really challenging year and a half, to say the least, and I'm just mostly interested in rejoining the board to help to contribute to an, you know, an atmosphere of stability. And I think I'm well suited to do that just because of my recent board experience. And as a result of this experience, I just don't think I'm going to have a strong learning curve. I mean, I may have a learning curve because I know things have changed over the last year. But I feel like I could really hit the ground running in the role. And I already have a deep understanding of the school board just in terms of the responsibilities that are engaged as well. And then finally, I would say my major interest is also accelerating the work in diversity, equity, and inclusion that has been undertaken, as that is what I believe is central to all students really being able to thrive and to achieve academically. And that's about it. I'm open to questions if you have any. I know Dr. Huff is asking everybody about whether they'd run. I likely would not run for a term after 2 years. It's hard to predict the future, but that is sort of where I stand now. It would really just be to fill that 2-year period.
So just to clarify, you would run this November to complete the 2-year term through 2023, but
Correct.
not sure about beyond that.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions from board members? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that takes us to our time to vote to fill this vacancy. And so I will ask Ms. Figueroa to take a roll call.
Mr. Sullivan,
Mr. Gill,
Mrs. Walkman,
Ms. Vogt,
Ms. Wachowski Smith,
Ms. Stole,
Ms. Semino,
Ms. Vogt,
Dr. Huff,
Ms. Stole,
Mr. Cudas,
Ms. Vogt,
Mrs. Lentz,
Ms. Vogt,
Dr. Grandy,
Ms. Vogt.
Ms. Vogt has received 5 votes.
All right. So Ms. Vogt will be sworn into the board. I guess as soon as possible. I believe she's out of town, but we'll take care of that soon. I want to thank all the candidates for expressing interest in serving on the school board. You know, it's something that is essential for the success and future of the school district. So we're always deeply appreciative of people stepping forward in their willingness to serve. And I hope everyone continues to find ways to engage in the district. So that takes us to our next section on the agenda, which is audience recognition for response to other topics that are not on the agenda this evening. Is there anyone who would like to speak tonight about a topic that's not on the agenda? Sure. So I'd invite you to the podium, and if you could just share your name and your street name, and then you can go ahead with your comment.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry, when you said street name, are you referring to the address? Or
Well,
what he's known by in
Oh.
the streets?
Good point.
I was just curious.
So,
I don't know how we roll here in
So-
Wallingford-Swarthmore, so I wanted to
So-
check.
We used to say street address, but then
Oh.
it was pointed out that some people might not be thrilled about sharing their specific house number.
I see,
So
I
we
see.
moved to street name, but I
Thank
could
you.
see the
I
confusion.
understand.
Okay.
It
Maybe
just-
we should say
The
name of
name-
street.
The name of the street that you reside on.
Okay,
It just took me back a little.
Okay.
okay. I'm Jonathan Washington, any pronoun, Swarthmore Rutledge School parent, and I'm on Elm Avenue in Swarthmore. Okay, sorry, I was just running. Okay. Members of the school board, members of the public, I'd like to share our perspective quickly. I'm as tired as the next person of the pandemic and of wearing masks, as you can tell. But here's the thing, the virus doesn't care that we're sick of masks. And to the point, my kids aren't vaccinated and I need to protect them. Kids are definitely less prone to severe illness and death from COVID-19 than adults, but some still do get sick and some even die from the disease. There's evidence that others are left with lifelong issues, including neurological conditions. I don't want to find out which group my kids might be in. I want to protect them from the virus until the pandemic is really over. And that, at a bare minimum, means not letting them spend all day, every day this fall in rooms full of unvaccinated, unmasked people. Once everyone in that room is vaccinated and community spread stops, sure. Unfortunately, people have not stopped getting sick from COVID, but they have stopped getting vaccinated. And there are reports of vaccinated only events turning into spreader events now that people aren't wearing masks indoors either. The self-paced online Edmentum Ed Options Academy is not really an option for us. My nephew did school through a similar program last year in Ohio, and it required more parental supervision than we would have the capacity to support. The virtual option last year in Wallingford-Swarthmore School District went much better, thanks in large part to the involvement of our wonderful local teachers. And I would do it again if I had to. But I also really want my kid to be in school in person, interacting with other kids and teachers in a more neutral way, and honestly, more natural way, I'm sorry, and honestly, just out of my hair for a couple hours every day. But for that to be safe, everyone in this classroom needs to be wearing masks. To prevent the spread of COVID-19 in schools this fall, right after the suggestion of promoting vaccination in the surrounding community, both the CDC and the American Association of Pediatrics, as of today, recommend consistent and correct mask use. Both groups also recommend physical distancing, including cohorting, screening testing, improvements in ventilation, hand washing, and respiratory etiquette, cleaning and disinfecting, etc. No, none of this is mandated. Instead, these two groups suggest that schools coordinate some combination of these strategies that work for them based on how things are going in the surrounding community. They also highlight this is how we can protect our children and each other. Whatever you may think of the CDC at this point, this is a sensible set of suggestions. It speaks tomes that basically all pediatricians in the US are on board with exactly the same thing. I would argue that masking is a bare minimum and that in combination with a few other low-cost measures, our children can be safe in the fall. But I'm open to anything we can do to keep our kids safe. For example, if we want to have masks required and masks optional classrooms and cohorts for kids under 12, with family choice of which cohort our kids are in, then by all means do that. One last thing, it would be great if there were a more systematic venue for the community to provide their input on these issues. Picketing and speaking at school board meetings take considerable effort, aren't accessible to everyone, and don't offer the school board a balanced view of the perspectives out there. Yes, I hate to say it, but I think some basic online questionnaires would go a long ways here in enabling you to do right by the district's families. In conclusion, I would like to highlight two pieces of WSSD's mission statement. Each person bears responsibility for the well-being of society and the quality of the environment, and society benefits when individual rights are balanced with social responsibilities. In this case, everyone in classrooms with unvaccinated children has a responsibility to those children. So I would like to ask that WSSD act in accordance with these points and find a way to keep our kids safe this fall by requiring masks in classrooms with unvaccinated children. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members here of the public here to speak to the board? Ms. Deirdre going. Okay.
Hello. I'm Deirdre Abrahamson. I live on 3 Hickory Lane. And I just wanted to say, as the Olympic Games are starting this week, just wanted to recognize publicly here the great success that some of our alumni have had in competing in the Olympic trials, and also one competing in the Olympic Games. So I just want to say, start with Allie Wilson. She graduated in 2014, and she competed in the 800-meter run at the Olympic trials in Oregon. She placed 6th. With a time of 1:59.02. She was a standout here on track and soccer, then a standout at Monmouth University, where she was a 3-time All-American, had multiple school records, and just we were shared a lot about it on our social media, and just the engagement of the community like supporting her and the others is just really exciting, and just so exciting to see her and the others do so well. And I just saw her running past here the other day, and she stopped in at the girls cross country practice, and it just so amazed with her. She competes for the Atlantic Track Club. And then next was Grace Forbes, who graduated more recently in 2019, and she competed in the 10,000 meters. She was a 3-time All-American this past year at Rice University for cross country, indoor and outdoor. The youngest competitor in the 10,000 at the Olympic trials. And again, just incredible to see her running here around our track and around our neighborhood every summer. And again, just so proud of her. This past year, she also broke 5 school records at Rice. And she competes there with her older sister, and now her younger sister, Maggie, is also joining them this fall, which is amazing. And a shout out to Coach Corin and all our cross country and track coaches who've, as Coach Corin said, didn't overwork them, and then they continue to peak and develop. And then lastly, we have Jay Coyle, who graduated in 2012, who's competing in fencing this Saturday, and also with the team competition next week. So we're going to be sharing information on our website and social media and how to, when that's showing. And again, just the engagement of the community on our social media, supporting these alumni and all of us, and everything that's going on is really remarkable. And we wish Jake the best of luck, and to his family, and just a shout out to Coach Pixie, who was his gym teacher, who got him started in the sport here at Strathaven Middle School. So just getting chills just talking about him and all of this, and just wanted to share that publicly, and get everyone on board as we cheer him on this weekend. And tomorrow in our community of explorers in the SY, they're doing a red, white, and blue day. So kids are going to wear those colors and make some signs, and I'll be going around sharing some of that. But we're just very excited and very proud. Just wanted to share that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Those are really exciting stories to hear and inspiring. I think we have another member of the, did you want to say something? Okay.
My name is Emily Ekman, and I'm at 118 Westminster Drive. I came here today to share my experience the morning of July 12th for the Explorer program, which we were super excited about. My children attended the online academy for the entire year. So this summer school program was a huge step for me and for my family. But before I go into that, I would just like to truly, truly thank Kate Jones and Julia Cooperstein for the amazing support they gave me after finding out our children would not be required to wear masks for the summer school program. It was a very upsetting and emotional time for me, since I did not know about the mask requirement that was taken away. But both of these teachers went above and beyond to help me for the first couple of days while the kids got on the bus for the first time. And I truly cannot thank them enough. The post that I posted on Facebook that day, I felt I wanted to share, just because I got so many people from both sides that truly, truly felt my story and my compassion for putting my kindergartners, my set of twins, on the bus for the first time. I said I was not sure if people truly understood how this big of a deal this was for me to put my kids on a bus and allow them to go to school. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a parent of a set of twin kindergartners, and I'm also a cancer fighter since 2019. Allowing them to participate and let them experience school has been something my whole entire family has been waiting for. My kids will continue to wear a mask for their safety and, of course, for mine. I invite everybody who is not vaccinated to do the same, not just for our children, but also for the members in this community like myself with a very, very, very low immune system. I'm asking for the board to require mask wearing until our children can all be vaccinated. Let's support each other and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Hello, my name is Hyrie An and I live on Ridgewood Road in Media, Pennsylvania. I'd like to share about my daughter's old homework folder. My printout. Okay. Dear school board members, Superintendent Marseille, and community members, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I appreciate the time given to share my concerns about the updates made to the health and safety plan that were voted on June 14th that were effective at the end of June this year. I initially had enrolled my 2 elementary age daughters in the Summer of Explorers program, assuming that the summer program would continue with the health and safety protocols of masking and distancing that were a part of the 2021 school year. I did not receive an email communication that anything had changed. However, through a conversation with a friend, I learned about the board's approved change to the health and safety plan. Initially, I thought there was no way that the board and the school district would make such a significant change to the plan and not send out a district-wide email. However, this was not the case. My husband and I decided that the best decision was to unenroll our children from the program once we had heard of the change. And I was sad because they were at home all year and I was really excited for them to have that opportunity to go in person again, especially before the fall when they would be there full time. 8-0. The board passed this update 8-0. 8-0 to me would indicate that the school board thought that these updates would be unanimously approved by the parents and guardians in our district without sending out a survey. Dear school board, since you did not ask me directly, let me be clear. Your unanimous vote to approve this plan does not have my support. I am requesting the board to update the health and safety plan to align with CDC guidelines. The current CDC guidelines recommend that all students over the age of 2 that are not vaccinated to wear masks in schools. The guidelines also recommend that schools implement multiple layers of mitigation strategies. Not only are masks now optional in our schools with this updated plan, but the school board has also removed all modifications for physical distancing. I'm asking the school board to align with the recommendations of the CDC, especially to protect our children who are not yet eligible for the vaccine. Since these guidelines were updated in July of 2021, the school board must now look to update the health and safety plan based on these updated guidelines, according to the PA Department of Education and align with the recommendations of the CDC. Let's face it, Delta is hitting our country hard, especially the unvaccinated. The unvaccinated not only include our children that are under 12, but also include our most vulnerable population, the immunocompromised. At West, the school motto is be responsible, be respectful, and be safe. As a community, not only can we protect our kids who are under 12 that are ineligible for the vaccine, but we can also protect the families that need our help to keep them safe. To me, wearing a mask and practicing distancing is a way to live out this motto of being responsible, of being respectful, and being safe. You're showing our kids that we are a collective community that strives to protect each other, especially the members of our community whose lives might be at stake. In conclusion, I am requesting the board to update their health and safety plan to not only align with the CDC recommendations, but also for the sake of our community. Please know that as a parent that I am trying my best to help my girls feel safe, but I will need your help and the help of the administration and board to help my girls return to school safely this fall. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment this evening? Please.
Hello, my name is Meredith Seidman and I live on Willow Road. Hello and good evening. My name is Meredith Seidman. I just finished my freshman year at Strathaven High School, during which I took all honors courses. I have white skin, black hair, and hazel eyes. To other people, those are the most important things about who I am. But to me, the most important thing about myself is that I am Jewish. However, time and time again, the Wallingford-Swarthmore School District has shown me that this is not important to them. The, at most, 2 days a year off for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, if they even fall on a weekday, isn't cutting it anymore. May is Jewish American Heritage Month. Did you know that? Well, I can tell you that almost none of the students at Strathaven High School did, since it was barely mentioned at all. Like I said at the beginning, I just finished freshman year. Yet through all my 9 years of schooling in this district, I have never heard the word Holocaust said once in a classroom in the ways that is educating on the actual event. I am 14 years old. The genocide of 6 million people that my people went through is not a touchy subject that should be avoided because it could upset some people. It's not some dark history that can be skipped over and forgotten about just like that, especially America's own involvement in the Holocaust. I myself have heard firsthand Holocaust and anti-Semitic jokes spoken by students in these schools. I understand changing the school curriculum is not exactly the easiest process, but having an annual assembly to talk about the Holocaust starting in 6th grade isn't a lot to ask. I shouldn't even be having to ask one of the top 10 school districts in Pennsylvania to teach about the genocide of any group, but here I am standing before you doing just that. The even worse thing about the complete lack of Holocaust education is the fact that we're doing nothing to prevent another one. Just off the top of my head, I'm going to guess that at least 50% of the students at the middle and high school have never even heard the word anti-Semitism, let alone know what it means. Anti-Semitism, defined by Merriam-Webster, is the hostility to or prejudice against Jewish people, but it is so much more than that textbook definition. Let me ask you all a question. Did you know that from May 11th to May 31st, anti-Semitic hate crimes in the United States rose over 600%? The amount of times during that period that I debated tucking my Star of David or Chai necklace, a symbol of my Jewish pride, into my shirt for my own safety is too many times for a teenager to have to think about. And was this fear that Jewish people all around the world face ever addressed by the Wallingford-Swarthmore School District? Nope, not once. It's like 1930s Germany all over again. And just like it was 90 years ago, everyone has gone silent. No education, no talking about it, no email, as performative and frankly useless as it is, about it. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Nothing about when it happened not even 90 years ago, and nothing about when it is happening now. This school district prides itself in being inclusive and diverse. Yet when it comes to the actual diverse students, everything seems to go radio silent. Never again is now, and this school district is doing nothing to stop it. You have young, impressionable minds sitting in your hands, and you are molding them to care more about a grade on a test than human rights. I've seen other people speak up about the mistreatment and misrepresentation of their people, and I decided it was my turn to do the same. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you for sharing. Other comments this evening?
This is a comment from a member who came to the meeting and had to leave as the meeting went a little longer than expected. She did provide a written comment, as it's the same thing that she was going to read had she been here at this point in time in the meeting. I'm looking at her, at Kyle.
Yeah, that wouldn't normally fit within the requirements of what you invite for public comment. If you want to make it part of the record of this meeting, you certainly can accept it. That doesn't mean that you necessarily would end up reading it aloud.
Okay, why don't we just make sure it gets circulated to the
Okay.
board?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right, well, I want to thank all of our district families that have come out to speak tonight about issues that I know are important to all of you. And certainly we've heard your concerns and may discuss these issues at future meetings. Before we move on, Dr. Marseille, did you have any
Yes.
comments you wanted to make?
May I comment?
Sure.
Please, may be breaking protocol, I'm not sure. So I want to thank everyone for sharing and coming out to do that. And I'm keenly aware that though there are not many of you here tonight, doesn't minimize the concern that you have. But I am moved to speak to Meredith. I'm sorry for your experience. Your identity and your experiences are integral in the way in which this school receives you, about this, the way in which you feel about your school and the way in which the school makes you feel. Your Jewish heritage is extremely important to who you are. If we're not doing enough to live up to our core values and our mission, I want to share with you that as the proud superintendent of this district, I heard your voice. And I too know what it feels like to not having your story heard. I too know what it feels like to have your classmates make inappropriate statements. I too feel what it feels like that the curriculum is not reflective of your experience. And adults who may not have the skill set, ability, and or administration who has not put things into place. So I'm moved by that experience, not shocked by it, which is unfortunate that we're still engaged in this type of discourse. I hope that you continue to be a champion because there are a number of your classmates who didn't have the courage, but felt the same way. And your voice has resonated with a lot of individuals. And I hope that you give me the space to create that for you. Because that's what I'm going to leverage. I'm going to leverage my social capital as superintendent. All right, if somebody else wants to be superintendent, they can go through all the coursework. They can take the UPenn loan, take all that up and come and apply for the position. Hopefully not anytime soon. And they can try to do this. What I will demonstrate to you and to your classmates is my willingness and my passion for student voice. And what you did was extremely powerful. And I wanted to share that with you. I'm saying this not because I'm the only person at this table who is thinking it, right? So as I look to my new teammates for the next 5 years, to my left and to the right, who's committed to this work and committed to that voice. So I'm hoping as I transition, I know who you are now. So I know where to find you when school starts. I think I have your information in Power School. So I'll be reaching out and I want to talk to you. And I want to talk to your classmates. I want to hear their story. I want to know what I can do in order to do that. Because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, right? I don't have to tell you that. And you remain silent and you're doomed to repeat that. We are keenly aware of the significant rise in anti-Semitism in this country. And it's alarming at best. You stay silent, and those who continue to perpetuate that will continue to perpetuate that. And then what they do is send messages to those on the sidelines as though that's okay. And it's not okay. So we're gonna reclaim our spot and reclaim our voice. So I want to share that you have partners in this conversation. And I'm the first, but my colleagues to my right and to my left are committed to that as well. I'll just beat them to the punch by meeting you first. I'm sure they'll follow up, right? Oh, you already know her. All right, so you already beat me to the punch. I hope to hear from you. No better place than to share it here with the superintendent, with the board, whose primary work is about thinking about policies we implement unintentionally and intentionally that create those particular conditions. And no better than Dr. Jones, who's our director of K-12 curriculum, right? So you came to the right place, and I'm happy that you were courageous enough to share that story. And I hope you accept my invitation when I reach out to have a conversation and bring some friends along with you, and we'll chat, okay? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Marseille. That takes us to school board reports. Does anyone have a report from a district subcommittee or out of district role they'd like to share this evening? Okay, do we have any old business? Okay, do we have any new business?
Yes.
All right, Marilyn.
So Dr. Marseille and my fellow board members.
Do we have
and
to
the
move
community-
towards new business? Can we skip it?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I have served on this board for almost 12 years now. I started when my daughters were in elementary school at Wallingford Elementary School, and they have both now graduated from the district. And during the time I've been on the board, I have served with more than 20 other school board members. I tried to make a list, I tried to count them, and I'm not sure I got everybody, so I had to go with more than 20. 5 superintendents, and I lost count of the administrators. All of these people have been doing just phenomenal work to provide an awesome public education for the children in our district and an awesome experience for the families and the community as a whole. They've been doing this through good times, through volatile times, through difficult times, and through completely awful times. And I treasure the relationships I have built with all of the people I have come to know and the breadth of perspectives I have come to understand. But the time has come for my family to downsize. Later this summer, I will be moving out of the district. And so I will have to resign my position just 4 months short of the official end of my term. So my resignation will be effective August 2nd, 2021. So thank you all. And while I still have a microphone, since I won't have it for much longer,
Yeah, go
I
for
have
it.
one more thing to say. And that is, since I will not be able to participate in the board discussion about your decisions about masking, I thought I would share my perspective just from this single meeting. It's difficult to be the only one at the table wearing a mask. And I'm an adult. I can't imagine how difficult it is for a child in an elementary school to wear a mask if their classmates are not. So that's what I will leave you with.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Huff, we're gonna miss you. And thank you for your incredible service to the school district, including serving in the role as board president not too long ago. So thank you for your service. Jen?
Thanks. One more under new business.
Sure.
I wanted to congratulate our new Director of Student Services, Mr. Sandberg. He's here with his family. I wanted to just also say welcome to our district. Thanks for being here. So, all right, we're looking forward to it.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Two more items. I wanted to acknowledge the group of candidates that put themselves forward tonight to fill the vacancy, the vacancy of Mr. Ballas on the board. We are incredibly blessed to have such remarkable candidates come forward. It was not, as you could tell, as we went through, we would have been lucky to have any of you. And so I wanted to really thank you. I am really hopeful that we can continue to work together in some of the other opportunities that exist within the district. Jabir, I've had an opportunity to work with you in your role in WSS leadership, and I have really valued your guidance through that. And I really do hope that we can continue that through some other opportunities that would be forthcoming. The second thing I wanted to say was actually about the Explorers program. My daughter is participating in the Explorers program, and I couldn't be more grateful to the administration and to the teachers who are part of that program. My daughter went from telling me, come on, mom, it really is just school in the summer. It's not camp. We all know that. And I don't want to go to coming home after the first week saying, I think I want to do math. And this is a big deal coming from my daughter. And so I especially want to thank her teacher. He knows who he is. And that's a first for us. So to say I want to do math on my free time. So thank you to everyone that's been part of it. It's been a wonderful experience.
All right. Any other new business? All right. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.